August 12th, 1954. A man by the name of Katsumi Tezuka would don the Gojira suit in order to film a shot for the original Godzilla film. Stepping into water, everything was in order to begin the shoot. Explosives were set off on the suit, however, instead of creating the illusion of explosives imploding against Godzilla, the suit, likely due to the surrounding water, was promptly electrocuted. Tezuka fell to his side, the water engulfing him in the heavy suit. Without assistance, it was likely he may have died. The explosives were unplugged, and after the help of crew members, Tezuka would fortunately receive medical assistance and make a full recovery. Katsumi Tezuka would return in the sequel to the original Godzilla, this time around playing a different kaiju, this being Anguirus. Yet again, an incident would occur. During filming, he would fall into water, nearly drowning under the weight of the suit. Once more, he survived. May 14th, 1962. Towards the climax of King Kong vs. Godzilla, both of these kaiju tumble into the ocean. During the filming of this scene, the suit actor, Haruo Nakajima, fell and hit his head before subsequently passing out. The Gojira suit fell into the water, feet up. When crew members retrieved the suit, opening it up was quite a struggle due to the amount of water inside of it. After medical assistance, Nakajima would be okay. Suits catching on fire, actors nearly drowning, actors passing out, gases filling up suits, these incidents are countless, nightmarish, and tragic. Actors recall nearly suffocating within the Gojira costumes, terrifying experiences with being lowered into water, and the overall heaviness and lack of flexibility of these suits. To be suffocated within these suits, or any suit for that matter, is nothing short of petrifying. Yet Godzilla has always had a history with real-world horrors and tragedies. The stories surrounding this giant monster have always been bone-chilling, and when humanity has lost all that is humane, Godzilla has stood to represent these man-made horrors. Godzilla may be a monster, but it seems different to me. He is rather our god, controlling our world according to each other, and I will be the meat of the beast. I will be the host of Godzilla. Ever since finishing up work on my Dreams of an Insomniac video, I've realized something. My love for that series is an absolute outlier. In that video I stated multiple times that I don't really enjoy analog horror. I didn't enjoy the tropes, I often didn't appreciate the storytelling, and I absolutely did not care for any of the imagery depicted within these works. And yet the moment these tropes were even slightly utilized in that series, I felt impacted by them, enthralled, sometimes even genuinely scared or uncomfortable. And after uploading that video, I've had a lot of time to reflect. I've since come to the conclusion that I don't actually really dislike these tropes or stories, but rather I had yet to see them executed well, until I had finished watching Dreams of an Insomniac. I admittedly hadn't actually indulged with much analog horror at all. I had seen all of the series that I had mentioned in that video, but beyond that, well, I just hadn't seen enough for my opinions to be completely validated. And so I've decided that I could benefit from exploring a little, see what the genre outside of what I know has to offer. I'd like to take this opportunity to document my personal analog horror journey. I wanted to find more. I wanted to take a deep dive into analog horror, from the most popular to the most obscure and underrated. I wanted to give analog horror another chance, but I just didn't know where to start. If you know me at all, which you don't, you'd know that I love Godzilla, a franchise that manages to simultaneously stand for human tragedy and also have hilarious battles. Godzilla is everything I love in a franchise. There's a series in particular that has been at the top of my watch list for months now, practically since the day it came out. However, skimming through the first installment, all I saw were those tropes that I had detested so much, and I regrettably gave up the opportunity to indulge in a genuinely engaging and tragic story. One that, when looking deeper into, utilized these tropes that I disliked in a way that I actually did end up liking. I detest myself for doing this. This was a mistake that I don't intend to make twice. Created by Unknowingly, The Man in the Suit began its run on July 28th, 2023. In recent months, this series has become immensely popular, being featured on Film Theory as well as being covered and reacted to by a significant number of notable people. Despite all of this buzz, I had actually never
never gotten around to properly checking the series out for myself, despite the creator being someone I would consider one of my best friends. However, for all the praise the series is warranted, there are still a couple people who share the belief that it doesn't deserve its success due to the fact that it isn't super visually unique. This is a critique I can definitely understand, as the contents of The Man in the Suit aren't super cinematic. However, upon checking out the series for myself, I don't think this is a fair criticism to make for an entire series. Yes, if you don't like the story, that's perfectly fine and completely valid, but to take one look at the series and immediately dismiss it like I had done originally just for its visual style is immature, and isn't really the way you should go about consuming media. I mean, some of my favorite TV shows of all time are really, really ugly. So as such, I want this video to be my apology of sorts. I want to prove to others why the series is worth their time, and show myself why I was initially wrong in my opinions on it. So here we go. This is how The Man in the Suit, the Godzilla analog horror series, utilizes substance over style. The Man in the Suit is an ongoing analog horror series with 11 current installments and more on the way, surrounding the production of the original Godzilla films. It follows the story of a Toho film crew member who has witnessed horrific events on set, specifically surrounding the man who played Godzilla beneath the suit. It's important to establish that The Man in the Suit takes place in its own respective and fictional universe. The incidents I described at the beginning of this video were mentioned purely to evoke fear and interest, as well as contextualize the horrors of this series. The Man in the Suit, while featuring symbolism and events that happened in the real world, does not reflect any real stories of real people. The character inside the Godzilla suit is very likely not supposed to be a real person from our world, and is never portrayed as having a name. That being said, let's get into the first installment of the series, Godzilla Suit Incident. The Godzilla suit incident begins with very distorted music, this music being the Godzilla theme song, while an image of the titular character fades in. The footage and audio are very grainy. This image shows a while longer until we see another image of Godzilla, depicting him up close next to a building. Text reads, "The person in the Gojira suit was unknown at the time." An image shows Godzilla standing atop a wreckage. Text reads, "But the story the actor has with Gojira is odd. This is a photo of him in the suit." Here is another picture. He got the acting job of being and wearing the Gojira suit. Gojira is spelled wrong here. The image here flashes briefly into a distorted image with Japanese text roughly translating to this. "Godzilla may be a monster, but it seems different to me. He is rather our god. Control our world according to each other, and I will be the meat of the beast. I will be the host of Godzilla." This text is also present within the description. And the actor fell in love with it. A Toho producer shares that the actor within the suit would wear the suit so often, people would barely ever see his actual face. Even during breaks, he would wear the suit, not caring if it heated up. It was like he was addicted to the suit, like it was calling his name. It has gotten to the point where he brings the suit home even though we tell him not to. This on its own is cause for concern, as the original Godzilla suit, and many suits and films after, were anything but comfortable. Suit actors would often overheat and barely suffocate during filming. The original Godzilla suit would heat up to around 140 degrees Fahrenheit or 60 degrees Celsius, and the suit actors would reportedly pass out after only wearing the suit for a few minutes. An actor explains that although he wouldn't speak a lot, the suit actor would proclaim his name to be Goji, the nickname that the people on the set would give to the actual suit. The last time he was seen on set, he was acting in the suit until he just stopped. This is the photo that was taken. Several minutes later, he would start to walk and stop yet again. His breathing was muffled, yet he was also breathing very odd. The director thought this was a joke, poking at him to get back in place, but he wouldn't budge. After 2 odd minutes of oddly breathing, he would tell people to check on him and to make sure that he takes off the suit. This was the photo someone took before the person on the right saw what was inside. Up until now, this story has seemed entirely plausible and would and could exist in our own universe. Nothing necessarily supernatural or unrealistic has taken place. However, upon opening the suit, the unthinkable would occur. In a horrific instance of body horror and mutation, the man who was tasked with opening the costume would bear witness witness to a chilling sight. The suit actor was growing into the suit. His flesh would slowly rip and tear away as he tried to open it. The suit was now his skin. Somehow, his body would deform to the point that he was feeling the inside of the suit. This is what they expected. We see an image of, well, a man in a suit. The crew expected they'd open the suit to find him simply inside of it. However, this is what they found. The visual here is really interesting. In fact, all of the visuals of this first video are interesting, simply because of the fact that they, well, aren't. The first video, or episode, or volume, whatever you'd like to call it, is completely visually unremarkable. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, practically nothing here is visually impressive, groundbreaking, or breathtaking. However, the story is one that's quite beautiful in a way. It's probably the easiest to follow story I've ever seen in this genre so far. Although this is only a few minutes of a much larger series, it sets up the overall plot very, very well. During the filming of the original Godzilla movie, a suit actor would fall in love with his role, taking the Godzilla suit home with him and never taking it off on set, proclaiming that his name was a nickname given to that of the suit, Goji. During filming one day, Goji would go unresponsive before continuing to move up with unsteady breathing. The crew would be instructed to take him out of the suit, however, upon doing this, they would discover that Goji's flesh had melted and mutated into the suit, until the suit was practically him. Despite not being very visually stimulating or unique, this story has a very strong exposition. The sound design of this video also isn't really anything special. I really did like the distorted sounding Godzilla theme, as it was eerie and somewhat indiscernible. Also, the blaring sound at the end that was composed of the iconic Godzilla scream, or roar, was a very interesting way to use that effectively. Other than that, the sound design in this was pretty lacking, but hey, I can't complain. I think I'm too used to the music in Dreams of an Insomniac, but that isn't really comparable to most other digital horror projects. Regardless, let's move on to the second installment, Anguirus Suit Incident. This video stands at 9 minutes, 4 more minutes than the first. If you're not an absolute loser like me and every other Godzilla nut, you probably don't know many kaiju other than Godzilla and maybe King Kong. Anguirus is this little guy, first appearing in the second Godzilla movie and being the first kaiju to ever fight Godzilla. Anguirus Suit Incident begins with an advert for the second Godzilla movie, Godzilla Raids Again. Text appears on screen. The man in the Gojira suit still came along for the next movie. If they stopped and told anyone about the suit man, Toho would have been sued and ridiculed for keeping such a disgusting creation, so they decided to keep him out of the public eye so they could bank off the success of Gojira. Toho wanted to find out the ultimate cause for all of this. The man in the suit has been examined by private doctors. The doctors weren't really sure about the cause, saying it might be a pill, but they weren't certain. What they were certain about was the outcome. Whatever he took or had made his skin and flesh inflate in the inner suit, melting and fusing together. He can somehow feel the outer layer of the suit, as if it was his own skin. It turned out that he could see out of the eye sockets of the suit, but his eyes were bloodshot. Nothing is necessarily shown to us, and although I for one would find it really cool if we did get to see a few images of the things described, I don't think that telling rather than showing hinders much enjoyment, as a lot of people claim with analog horror. We can already gather a disgusting, gruesome enough image in our head through this description alone. I am a very big fan of body horror, and the thought of a living, breathing Godzilla suit with eyes barely popping from his sockets and a living mass of organs and guts and flesh melted into positions they shouldn't be is a chilling and very, very cool thought. The name for the actor who plays Anguirus is redacted. People on set noticed how he was audited out by the man in the suit. No one had cared to tell him what happened and what he has become. The man in the Gojira suit was very cooperative. Even after losing his vocal cords, he could still make noises. like one of an animal. Everything would go great until the last scene they had to do, where they would both fight. The man in the Gojira suit would chomp on the actor's head, making him bleed profusely. This was never a part of the script. The actor would yell painfully for help as the teeth clamped onto his head. Seconds later, the actor would stop moving. The man in the suit would protect the unconscious actor as he roared at anyone who came too close to the unconscious actor. The actor would awaken, shaking violently as he struggled to get up from the ground. The crew on the set helped him up, and fearing the worst, they tried to take off the suit. A picture was somehow taken when the man in the suit was roaring and protecting the unconscious actor. This is the photo. Holy analog. Yep, there he is. The man in the suit himself. I won't lie, this image doesn't really unsettle me too much. The problem isn't really within the material itself, more so the fact that this specific eye trope is done very, very often. Nevertheless, we get an ending similar to the last, with a white background and black text reading, "This is what they expected," while the Godzilla theme song can be heard. Here we have an image similar to the first as well. The suit, along with where the man inside it should have been. Here an image flashes by with Japanese text reading, "Wake up. You have a purpose. Stop trying to stop the inevitable." The image shown here was actually kind of disturbing to me upon first viewing. The music begins to distort, and as such, we can see what happened to the person inside the Endgear suit. Right as the video ends, text on screen reads, "Help me." The description roughly translates to what appears to be a conversation between the suit actor and Goji. "Help me. Someone help me. It hurts. It hurts so much. It hurts. I can't get out. Please help me. Oh God." "There is no God. Just me. Don't worry. I will make you whole again. You lost your family. That's why I take revenge. Kill those who have wronged us. Who are you?" "It's Goji. Only Goji." Godzilla Encounter 1962. We begin with another advert introducing us to the one and only King Kong. We see a poster before text appears yet again. With the man in the suit being the only Godzilla suit at the time, they used him for the next film. A very strange decision considering this guy bit the last suit actor and turned him into another flesh suit abomination, but hey, money is money, I guess.
With King Kong being an American film, the man in the suit wasn't having it. This is where I come in.
Here we meet what is essentially our protagonist, an anonymous, presumably American Toho cameraman who was informed of the man in the suit situation before starting his job, and instructed to keep everything about it confidential or else he would be arrested. I'm not sure that movie producers have the power to arrest someone, but nevertheless, this cameraman says that the truth needs to come out somehow. The man in the suit was not happy making a movie with the Americans. Toho producers forced him to look more appealing to a younger audience. He wasn't happy with how all of this played out. He had a strong hatred for the actor in the King Kong suit, Shoichi Hirose. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, by the way, I didn't look up how it is pronounced. Let it be known that yes, Shoichi Hirose is a real person. However, I don't think this means that every person in the series is a real person from our reality. It's also possible that this information has been retconned. Goji either thought that Hirose was a traitor for portraying an American monster, or saw something within him. The cast knew that Goji disliked the Americans, and that he would roar at them, and even attempt to attack them. The cast treated him like a lion at the zoo. They had to film one more scene, and our cameraman was instructed to not stop filming. The script was for a scene that occurred after destroying a large building, in which Goji would use his atomic breath ray on King Kong. It did not go as planned. Goji would shove Hirose off a cliff, and the cameraman was forced to continue to film all of it. There was a struggle in the water, splashing as one of them frantically tried to get out of the other's grasp. Only one of them rose from the water. This may likely be in reference to a very popular urban legend surrounding this movie. In the original movie, King Kong was the one who arose from the water. However, in this telling, it was Godzilla who rose from it. A popular myth for a while was that this movie actually had two endings recorded. One that aired in Japan, where Godzilla won, and one in America, where Kong won. However, this is completely false, and King Kong emerging was the real ending, regardless of where the movie was being shown. Godzilla being the victor not only sets apart this as a separate timeline, but may also be a neat reference to this popular myth. The cameraman was horrified, sick to his stomach, not wanting to discover what Goji had done to Hirose. He took his other camera and ran off. He tried to leave the long corridors of the Toho studio, wanting to take a quick breath of fresh air. But he heard screams from the room he had left. The power had failed, going out. The cameraman used the flash of his camera in an attempt to look around, frantically searching for an exit. He heard footsteps coming toward him, assuming it was an employee, and took a photo trying to find an exit. As I'm sure you've already figured out by now, this wasn't an employee. It was the man in the suit. This is the photo that was taken. The text on screen reads, "Betrayer." The description, as always, contains Japanese text that, after translated to English, reads as follows. "We were supposed to make a movie about what happened, about what they did to my family, what they did to me. Oh, filthy traitors. I didn't pour my soul into this carcass to be entertained, and with those who killed my family. Betrayer." This description provides a lot of insight into the emotions and motivations of Goji. Godzilla's history has its roots deep within Japanese history and culture. If you're, for some reason, unaware, Godzilla as a franchise is a direct result of World War II, specifically towards the end of it, when the United States launched 2 nuclear weapons against the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These atomic bombs killed approximately over 200,000 civilians and military personnel. 9 years later, the original Godzilla film would be released. Godzilla would stand as a metaphor for the atomic bomb, a direct result of the tragedies that occurred years prior. Godzilla is known to often shoot a laser beam out of his mouth that charges up along his spine, this laser being referred to often as his atomic breath, a power that in some interpretations even leaves a massive radioactive mushroom cloud in its wake. Godzilla destroys everything in his path. He is an allegory for humanity's capacity to completely destroy itself. He is both a metaphor for the atomic bomb in the sense that he is an unstoppable, destructive, murdering machine, and the sense that he evokes great tragedy wherever he strikes, but also is physically related to the atomic bomb in some of the abilities that he is known to have. The man in the suit lost his family to these atomic bombings, and became bitter at Americans because of this. After becoming corrupted and fusing with the Godzilla suit, the man in the suit continues to make Japanese Godzilla films. However, he refuses to work with the Americans when they make a movie featuring King Kong, an American character. This gives an obvious motive to his complete hatred of King Kong and the actor inside of the suit. Keep the atomic bombings in mind, as these will be important throughout the entire series. This next video is titled Depiction of Growth and begins with dialogue from the cameraman once again.
I was startled by my first encounter of the man in the suit. It made me more curious than ever. It might harm me doing this, but I need answers.
The cameraman goes to one of his friends who is smart with this stuff. Her name is also anonymous, and as such, the cameraman refers to her as Elisa. When he called her, she was in the middle of teaching class, but seemed incredibly curious and said she would call back when she had the chance, as she had never seen anything quite like this.
The thing is, whatever this was caused wasn't from a pill. This is something else. Oh, God. This is the work of radiation. Holy shit. The man in the suit doesn't fuse with the suit instantly. His body explodes in the suit, then it reshapes itself in the suit. How do I explain this? Imagine a cream-filled donut. Without the cream, it's mostly a flat donut. That was the suit before, but because of the filling. The man, it basically filled up all the space. But him and a cream-filled donut are different. The cream and donut are separate entities. There is a barrier so they don't mix. The man in the suit, however, his skin, his flesh, his bones, it's fusing with the suit. His teeth would be the suit's. Whatever he took. It's mutating him. It's making him more like a creature than a human. Soon he will have animalistic properties, like using its teeth more effectively, and would be able to control his tail. You said his eyes could move, and that they are bloodshot? But in this photo, his eyes flashed back. Human eyes don't do that. You need to try and put him down. If not, it is probably too late for mankind.
The cameraman questioned what Goji would look like when fully mutated. However, Elisa explained to him that there is no stopping point for this mutation. She instructed him to go to an artist, giving him a description that the cameraman can't remember anymore. Here are the drawings. These are definitely my favorite images from the series, mainly because I am admittedly a sucker for cool Godzilla drawings, but also because these drawings seem incredibly believable and real for this universe. The description translates to, "I am not a monster. I will help you all. I will kill those who have wronged me, those who murdered my family and those who supported them. You killed my family. Monsters." Now, let's take a look back at the recording of this phone call. Elisa explains that this is the work of radiation, which means it's very likely that the man in the suit is one of the Haibikusha, a word used to describe survivors of the atomic bomb attack, as well as those affected by the radiation of these attacks. Radiation has been known to damage and mutate cells, so this rapid mutation, while definitely being exaggerated, makes sense for this character in this universe due to these events. So the man in the suit is likely a victim of the atomic bombings, either in Hiroshima or in Nagasaki, and the radiation over time melted and mutated him into the Gojira suit, until it acted as his own skin. The man in the suit he melted into will only continue to mutate and grow over time, with no end to this horrifying cycle. And if that doesn't scare you already, allow me to show you something that may change your opinion on the series if it hasn't managed to frighten you so far. In October of 2016, a standalone Godzilla film in the first of the Reiwa era was released, simply titled Shin Godzilla. This movie is widely considered to be the closest thing to a horror film in the entire franchise, and for good reason. Godzilla in this film has the unique ability to rapidly mutate and evolve in order to combat his surroundings, starting out as a tadpole-like water creature, before becoming a four-legged creature with a tadpole-like appearance, before beginning to stand upright like the traditional Godzilla design. During the climax of the movie, scientists discover that they can defeat Godzilla by freezing its blood, and manage to successfully do so while this Godzilla is in the process of evolving yet again. This is what we get to see from that evolution. So yeah, scary stuff. This rapid evolution concept is genuinely terrifying to me, especially when you see how big of an emphasis this movie has on blood and body horror. Hell, there's a deleted scene where we find out that the flesh that has been blown off of Godzilla is actually alive, and is mutating into a disgusting gory mess. So yeah, this is likely what's filling the entire Godzilla suit within the Man in the Suit series. The Man in the Suit quite literally exploded inside of the suit, and his flesh and bits of gore reformed to fill in the hollow insides. Horrifying. By now we have a pretty solid understanding of the plot and can continue moving forward. Sorry, this is my opportunity to info dump about Godzilla films, pay no mind to me. Let's move on to the next video, titled Suit Trial in Japanese. The description reads as, "Why should I listen to him?" The video begins with more dialogue from the Toho cameraman.
I snuck around the Toho building a day after the encounter with the man in the suit. I found a tape labeled,
I couldn't figure out what this means, my bad. The translated text here is genuinely impossible to read, so I'll just read out the text given from Unknowingly, as well as a few of the comments. We are fully aware of the situation we are in. We will do our best to test what threw me to here so they can train him. We will try to do some audio tests. Let's start with the man in the suit. We have him in a cell. Make sure he is there until you can train him. He destroyed the light and only the darkness, but that's okay. Our camera has night vision. The screen then cuts to what appears to be an image of Goji's tail. We hear some garbled sounds that, while hard to make out, actually consist of Oppenheimer's famous speech. A speech that wouldn't exist for another 6 years, but that's beside the point. If you remember correctly, the man in the suit's vocal cords were ruined to the point where he could only make animal sounds, so he wouldn't be able to speak here at all. And while he isn't, as looking in the comments would confirm, an eerie shot is shown of the man in the suit, while the song Antonino Sara begins to play. This has been my favorite moment of the series so far, as I appreciate the authentic Japanese twist on a common analog horror trope, being old music, as well as just appreciate this particular piece of art. Mailed Message 1962 begins with a simple explanation. You don't understand. You killed my family. You Americans cheered when we lost. We lost our homes. We lost our families. You nuked us. The nuke took my wife. The nuke took my kids. Hiroshima was our home. I left for a business trip. You took everything from me. So I decided to return peace by getting rid of the people who wronged us. The description reads, "You took everything from me." This is a coherent description of what we already know, with a few added details. It's apparent that this tape was created by the man in the suit, and no, don't ask me how he was able to create and mail this tape as a mutating lizard monster with 4 fingers. That's not important. What is important is that we learn that the man in the suit lost his wife and children to the bombings, and was likely from Hiroshima. The installment isn't necessarily a big lore drop or story installment, but rather serves to further drive in the tragic aspect of this narrative. This man lost everything, only to explode and melt into becoming the artificial host for a giant lizard costume, and be consumed by feelings of grief and rage. It's something I enjoy greatly about the series. It feels a lot more human than a lot of other analog horror series I've seen. Godzilla has always had a way with connecting with audiences, especially Japanese viewers watching the very first film. It has always been an emotional piece of art, and seeing that illustrated in this series means a lot to me as a Godzilla fan. Yes, Godzilla has often been whitewashed by Hollywood, both literally, in the sense of the original movie being somewhat censored in America, and more figuratively as American Godzilla films keep getting wackier. But this doesn't mean that we should forget the origin and beauty of Godzilla and what he stands for. Take Godzilla -1, for example. Genuinely my personal favorite movie of 2023, this movie preys on the emotions of its audience and creates the most memorable human cast of characters in a Godzilla film yet. The movie is tragic and doesn't shy away from its own heritage, and is even more beautiful when you take into account that it is, in my opinion and many others, a much better movie about atomic warfare and human tragedy than the big-budget blockbuster film about the atomic bomb that came out in the same year. And yes, I am still mad that Oppenheimer's existence likely took away a lot of appreciation that Godzilla -1 deserved at the Academy Awards. You people are too afraid to nominate foreign films for Best Motion Picture, and I am tired of it. You can watch Godzilla -1 for yourself right now at home, I believe. This video is supposed to go out on May 3rd, which is the very day that Godzilla -1 drops on Prime Video. So go watch it when you're done watching this video, because it's a really good movie, and I like it, and it's good. I need to actually talk about the premise of the video, don't I? My bad. The Godzilla autism has corrupted my brain. Right, back to the man in the suit. This next installment is titled Dorsal Extraction 1962, and once again begins with some exposition, likely from the Toho cameraman.
I recently got 2 sets of mail. They were shabby, but they came from Toho. They didn't look professional, they looked sloppy. One was how nobody at Toho mailed me the weird package, even though the mailing address was from there. Second was that I was fired. They must have thought I was telling people this. They were correct.
It seems our cameraman friend has found himself jobless in search for answers. Can I just say that I really enjoy this trope, whatever it's called? Employee discovering horrifying secrets happening within their own company or workplace and attempting to inform the rest of the world about it. It's what I loved about Dreams of Insomniac Volume 1, it's what I loved about Broadside Beach and Shipwreck 64, and it's what I love about The Man in the Suit. Carrying on, the cameraman explained that this isn't quite the end for his little investigation.
Thankfully, I had befriended someone to be a spy and get me photos and tapes of what was happening. He came in here earlier with a tape called Dorsal Extraction.
We will try to get him out of the suit. Buddy, I think it's a little late for that. We are unsure if this is going to work. We see, well, the man in the suit in all his glory, standing in a dimly lit room. Another figure appears amidst mechanical sounds, drilling and saws beginning to be heard. He was very cooperative. We thought it would hurt him, but it didn't. The results are fantastic. The audio here is genuinely unnerving, as I have no idea what the fuck is going on or what these sounds are supposed to be, but it's unsettling. We're greeted with the face of none other than Goji, who seems to be looking a little jawless. The 8th installment is simply titled Angira Suit, 1956. The description translates to, why won't they listen? I just want to be human again. By now you're likely familiar with the way these videos begin. Our cameraman begins to narrate again.
After digging for it, they finally found it. He finally got the tape I wanted. I want to know what happened to the man in the Anguirus suit. We have tried our best to comply with the other person mutated in the suit, but his persistence hurts our finances. People want to see him, but he doesn't want to be seen. I was confused at first. Was that all? Then he started to explain. He explained that the next movie was supposed to be the man in the Anguirus suit versus the man in the suit. They have tried their best wanting to comply with Anguirus, like they were training a dog to do tricks. He snapped a photo of him trying to comply with the Anguirus.
Well, that's certainly an angry-looking dog, the kind of pit bull you'd encounter named Princess Sprinkle Cupcake.
They said they were going to use force on him, using tasers and such. But he warned me that there was another movie in the works. Something about Gojira battling a giant moth.
Masura, or Mothra, as she's known in English, is a fellow kaiju, first appearing in the 1961 film by Toho, simply titled Mothra. She would be featured time and time again in Godzilla films along with other memorable kaiju. She's also my personal favorite alongside Godzilla, just putting that out there. Moving on, next up we have Rare Newspaper 1964. The description reads, this place, the outside air, the cars, the windows, the house. Did they just move on? Will we forget? Our cameraman begins to narrate, all while a deep, unsettling instrument sounds in the background.
I have tried to get out of this situation and just leave Japan, but if I tried to, I'd probably be arrested. I've went too far down this rabbit hole, too far to the point I can't get out. It keeps getting worse. Somewhere in the making of the new movie, the man in the suit somehow escaped. How do I know this? It was on the news.
An image from a newspaper appears on screen, looking like what appears to be a drawn image of a massive Godzilla suit standing in mundane life. Spooks and whatever aside, this art piece is genuinely gorgeous. The title of the newspaper reads, Monstrous Movie Monster Sighting. Sightings and witnesses have seen a creature that resembles a lanky and tall Godzilla. One late-night couple started to travel home as the husband took some photos. The husband was a photographer and thought taking a picture of the road would be an inspiration to his next photo piece. One of the photos captures this. Oh my goodness, he's so cute. Aren't you a cute little flesh monster? Around later that night, a boy would see a silhouette of this mysterious beast. Thinking it was Godzilla, he stormed outside with a camera, trying to take a photo of it. These were the photos he was able to take. We tried to interview the kid, asking him what he had seen, and to draw a picture of the creature. I've seen the film with my dad. I know what Godzilla would look like, said the kid. The thing I saw outside on the street wasn't Godzilla. Beast's skin looked fake, yet real. Very uncanny. Oh. Holy shit, he said it. He said the thing. He said the... he said the Mr. Uncanny Tickle Funhouse of Thumb Baby Prudable Uncanny, like the he said that I love uncanny. Sorry. I don't think it was a creature. It might have been some man in a suit. Dude, he said the name of the series. That's the name of the that's the name of the series. He said that. Okay. I've calmed down this time. I promise. For real. I don't know how I can explain his face. It somehow kept changing. I think it's because of the lack of sleep, but I do remember one of his faces. He quickly drew a drawing of it.
Toho got wind of this fast, explaining that it was a promotion for their new movie. Somehow they were able to stop any more copies from printing again. I have too many questions. What was he even doing outside? How did he escape? Were Toho able to catch him?
An image of the moth appears once again, signifying Mothra's importance, leading into the next installment in the series. Before that, however, I'd like to take a moment to appreciate Rare Newspaper. The edited and drawn imagery here is a massive step up from the first installment of the series. And even though the series has been going on only for the span of a few months, the improvement within the production quality has been extremely noticeable. Unknowingly still makes all of this on his phone, mind you. While the first installment of the Mandela catalog was edited on an iPhone, the man in the suit has been entirely edited on a mobile device. A few artists have come on board in order to help Unknowingly with his creation process. However, at the end of the day, he's the one putting together all of these assets on a mobile editing device, coming up with the story, all while being younger than pretty much all other content creators in the scene. That, combined with the fact that he's stuck out hatred and harassment from many angry Godzilla fans, or just plain idiotic internet users, makes Unknowingly and his creations all the more impressive. This project is a labor of perseverance and love, and is something that could have likely crumbled a long time ago had Unknowingly given into the pressure of strangers online. Yet he didn't, which is something a lot of people can't say for themselves. I know I've already told you all of this in private many times, but just so that everyone watching this video knows, I'm immensely proud of you and your work. We finally arrive at Masura Suit Incident, 1964, the second to last episode in the series, and also the longest one, standing at 11 minutes and 11 seconds. This installment begins similarly to the others of its nature, with a distorted trailer showcasing the upcoming 1964 film Mothra vs. Godzilla.
The spy I had befriended told me what happened during the time. The man in the suit had escaped. He told me that something went wrong. He said that this happened because of what conditions the man in the suit was in. He was lathered in some paste that made him look different and a bit shiny. He had to wear a glossy type of contact so they could hide his bloodshot eyes. He was forced to withstand high winds. He was dragged around. He was treated like a circus animal. During production, instead of the man in the suit fighting another man in a monster suit, it would be replaced by a puppet. The man in the suit saw Masura, the puppet moth, as a living being. He thought someone was inside the puppet because of how lifelike it acted. Toho thought that this was a very smart tactic, until they realized they had a problem. Someone needed to be in one of the larvae suits. One female actor thought it would be a good idea because of how much security had. So she agreed to be in one of the shots. It was originally her first day on the job, and invited her parents to see her act. Her parents didn't care about what character she was in the movie. They were just happy that she was even included in production. Sadly, the amount of security isn't going to help her out of the trap she put herself in. In one of the scenes they were filming, the man in the suit snapped, going after the Masura puppet, biting into it. After realizing that the moth was a puppet, he would go ballistic, and charged after the woman in the larva suit.
An image is shown of the said larva suit, as well as where the woman would fit into it. Unlike the other suit incidents we've seen, a graphic of the man in the suit appears alongside it.
The man in the suit charges forward against the other suit. The larvae suit had plenty of headroom for her to duck down, but that wouldn't stop the man from charging deeper. While her head gets bitten, Her parents see everything. They tried to intervene, and they were both mauled to death by the man in the suit. After mauling them, the man in the suit would immediately try to protect the larva suit, but the production crew were ready this time. With tasers, they stunned him away from the larva suit. In some fit of rage, he barges through the security and escapes. There was a team that was quickly dispatched to catch the man in the suit. 4 men were tasked to stay with the larva suit, wanting to try to get her out of the suit. The spy was in the team to get the man in the suit. It took an hour to find the man in the suit. They saw him looking around the forest, as if he was just wandering around looking at nature, as if he was calm. The calmness broke as soon as it saw the people trying to capture it. The man in the suit was surrounded. Then it would start to shake violently. He twitched as a sudden sound, as if he was vibrating. It vomited a red, boiling liquid, presumably his own blood. It was probably the last resort the creature had, but somehow they had hold of the beast and took it back. The spy took a picture of what was left.
The man in the suit's own blood had accumulated in a pool, burning through the forest floor and leaving a trail of mist above it. As mentioned previously, in the 2016 film Shin Godzilla, Godzilla is defeated by the humans freezing his blood. In this movie, Godzilla blood actually acts as a cooling system, which is why they use this particular tactic in order to defeat him. Now, Shin Godzilla has multiple deleted scenes, the disgusting, gory flesh amalgamation from earlier included. One of these deleted scenes features Godzilla's third form vomiting hot, radioactive blood in an effort to cool himself. This to me is more than just a reference. This is deliberate, this is intentional, and this is genius. This is directly tying the man in the suit to this iteration of Godzilla, the one featured in Shin Godzilla, a horrifying film. I'll touch up a little more on this later. For now, let's continue the tape.
They left quickly to go put the man in the suit in a secure place. They feared the worst coming back.
By now, you know the drill, except things are a little different this time around.
This is what they expected.
Wait, that doesn't seem right. This form is already mutated. The last 2 times this happened, they expected the person inside to be completely fine. So why on earth is the mutated version the expected form? Well, maybe this woman miraculously made it out alive. Or perhaps the larva being simply mutated was wishful thinking.
This is what they found.
The description of this video translates to reborn. There's actually a good deal to unpack here, but I think we should quickly skim through the final episode of the series before doing so. 7 updates, 1964. This time around, the text from our cameraman is noticeably smaller and harder to read.
I've gotten several updates on what happened after the monster incident. 7 important things had happened during that. The spy had passed the room where a Toho executive and a government figure were talking. They were talking about the current state on the matter, talking about the cocoon, the current state Gojira was in, the news, etc. The most important detail I got was that I finally knew who was helping them along with hiding this. Secondly, was the cocoon. The cocoon or chrysalis was forming in one of the warehouses that stored the props for filmmaking. They got people to try and take it off, but when touching the cocoon, it sprayed an orange gas that flooded the room, presumably being something radioactive or poisonous. Thankfully, no one got hurt. They evacuated the warehouse instead of removing it. They want to keep it. Studying purposes? I am very agitated about this whole situation. They're doing stupid little mistakes that ruin other people's lives. Thirdly, scientists or specialists arrive on the scene where the man in the suit released his blood, expecting the same puddle from before, but they were met with this. It had gotten so bad that they needed people in hazmat suits so they could come closer to the puddle. As they looked around the puddle, they realized they needed to shut down the area. They were too afraid to touch the substance, so they closed down the area. Fourthly, someone at the scene of the puddle said that they could have seen an eyeball in the forming puddle. They weren't too sure to believe their claims, thinking it could have been a hoax. They weren't taking any chances, looking closer to see if they could find the eye in the puddle. They weren't successful for finding the eye in the puddle. The area around it was shut down. Fifthly, I had found out they were going to make another movie despite what's going on. Sixth, I've gotten mail from one of my daughters.
A children's drawing depicting a child along with her mother and her father. Her father is labeled as you, referring directly to the cameraman. In his hand is a camera, a letter from the child and presumably her mother. "We miss you, Daddy." Her name is obscured. Underneath, a more neatly written letter. "Dear Redacted, I have been worried about you. It was only supposed to be one movie. Are you staying there? Are you okay? What's going on?"
I miss them. I'm stuck here. Only here to show what happened. I want to go home, but I can't. Last thing I got updated on was getting a concept art for what the new monster would look like. This time, I'm going to intervene. I can't let this happen, not for a third time.
An image of a three-headed dragon-like beast fades into view. This is King Ghidorah. Another popular staple of Toho monsters, King Ghidorah is a three-headed dragon kaiju, conceived in 1964. The original King Ghidorah suit was a suit and a puppet hybrid similar to Mothra, and required a large amount of people to operate. With this information, I'm sure you can imagine how catastrophic a King Ghidorah suit incident in the Man in the Suit universe would turn out to be. 11 videos, roughly an hour of content. The Man in the Suit tells a story of tragedy and revenge, and how this tragedy manifests in innocent bystanders. The Man in the Suit follows the story of a Hiroshima bombing survivor exploding inside of the Godzilla suit he was cast to act as, and fusing with it, the suit becoming his skin. This Man in the Suit, referring to himself as Goji, begins acting incredibly strange. He bites the head of a suit actor, fusing him into the suit as well. He takes out his rage towards America on anything slightly resembling an American product or franchise. He aims to destroy those who took his family away from him, all while rapidly mutating. Through the eyes of a Toho cameraman, we witness horrors inconceivable to the human mind. A corrupt company has an actual danger to mankind being willingly kept within their studios, and continues to put innocent people in danger for the sake of a profit. A suit actor is corrupted. Another suit actor is turned into an inactive cocoon while her parents get mauled to death attempting to save her. The Toho cameraman, now ex-Toho cameraman, decides that in order to save innocent people from the next disaster involving the upcoming King Ghidorah, he has to step in himself and intervene. To me, I feel like these first 11 episodes act as a season 1 or pilot of sorts. We very clearly are introduced to this world and its concepts, as well as the big bad of the series. We're given a main character with a proper motive, an ex-cameraman aiming to protect people from the corrupt horrors of this universe's version of Toho. There are a few unsolved mysteries, and many theories attached to them, such as what will come of Anguirus, whatever happened to the man who played King Kong, what will this horrific cocoon turn into, why did the Man in the Suit vomit blood, and most importantly, why the hell do they keep making these damn movies? Seriously, with that many people dying, you would think it may just not be beneficial to try and keep things under wraps anymore, but hey, what do I know? The exposition here is honestly fantastic. The build-up to this face-off against the Man in the Suit when Toho decides to bring in a new kaiju, it leaves me and most of the audience wanting more. I want to know what happens next. There's a very clear setup here at the end, just like how Mothra was set up initially, and I am certain that the wait will pay off. It's been 3 months since the last release of The Man in the Suit, and in those 3 months, this series has become more popular than ever. Despite the series being under an hour in content, there's still so much we can gather from these 11 installments. Let's circle back to the blood pile sitting in the forest. It was said that an eyewitness noticed an eyeball amidst the pile of blood. Sound familiar? Let's circle on back to that deleted scene from Shin Godzilla, because the description of the man in the suit's gory pile of blood morphing into something more fleshy and unknown is a concept seen directly from the deleted scene in which we can see the disturbing and disgusting organic contents of Godzilla's flesh after breaking off. These have likely had more time to mutate, and from what we can see, there are in fact eyeballs in this mess of gore, among other things. Godzilla's flesh has mutated into something organic, something living, and it's only a matter of time before this living matter becomes something much more harmful. I don't know, maybe it'll grow into an organic being made of mysterious mass that makes its own kaiju mascot suit out of unused Toho suits, and spends its life tracking down and stalking important figures of Toho and guilts them over the horrors that they had allowed to take place within their company. Wouldn't that be a cool idea? Shame it hasn't been done before. Aside from the blood vomiting being a direct reference to the deleted scene in Shin Godzilla, it could also stand to mean something else, something a bit more sinister. Earlier in the video, I mentioned Godzilla's ability to release a catastrophic laser known as his atomic breath. The deleted blood vomiting scene was set to happen while Godzilla was in his 3rd form. Meanwhile, he was able to use his atomic breath in his 4th form. I'm sure you already know what I'm getting at here. The man in the suit is likely unlocking the ability to use this atomic breath, an iconic and devastating ability. We've already seen the destructive abilities of the man in the suit, most of which end in radiation infecting his victims. If the man in the suit ends up achieving the power of a literal atomic weapon, humanity is in for an ill-fated tragedy. Now, just because these last 3 months have yet to see the release of a new installment, this doesn't mean things have been completely radio silent. Unknowingly has released 4 teaser images onto his community tab, as well as the announcement of a collaboration with fellow digital horror YouTuber Vibing Leaf. When I informed Unknowingly that I was going to be creating this video, he actually offered me to show off a never-before-seen teaser. It's only a few seconds long, but in my opinion is the coolest thing we've seen from this series so far. Let's take a look. Awesome, right? There isn't much to go off of here, but the visual effects here are a massive step up from the first episode. The months that have been spent on this installment will absolutely be worth the wait in my opinion. I've mentioned multiple times throughout this video that Unknowingly is a good friend of mine, something made apparent if you look through most of my comment sections. As such, he was more than willing to answer a few questions for me. Thanks, buddy. Here is that interview. Hello, I'm Quinn, but you know that already, don't you? Today I'm here with my good friend Unknowingly, creator of The Man in the Suit, who has agreed to answer some questions! Hooray! Firstly, Unknowingly, was there a particular analog horror series that inspired you to start your own?
I was inspired by Suitmation Trials, not because of the concept of Suitmation, but just them not making a comeback, and no offense, the confusing narratives. So I thought, what if I basically made something absolutely different with Godzilla? Basically, pick up the Godzilla analog horror legacy and lift it up back off the ground. But doing so, I accidentally rebranded Godzilla analog horror to The Man in the Suit. But thankfully, Godzilla analog horror is getting on its feet with different types of ways to introduce the big G in different analog horror settings.
Oh, that definitely makes a lot of sense. The Suitmation Trials are very good. You guys should check out them if you haven't seen them already. It's like the original Godzilla analog horror. It's good. Clearly you're a big fan of the Godzilla franchise. Do you have a favorite film and a favorite kaiju?
Well, back then when I was a kid, I loved the goofy and fighting style of the show period, and it was awesome to me that with the internet, I loved the Godzilla song by Blue Oyster Cult. And when Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019 movie came out, I was hooked. It was awesome. The remake of the Blue Oyster Cult Godzilla song by Bear McCary was epic. Absolutely epic. I cried. And the post-credit scene was Kong and Godzilla. Cinema. Absolutely cinema. I would say that was my favorite film of the franchise. But then Godzilla -1 came out, and it was awesome. The acting, the music, the CGI, the story was terrifyingly beautiful. An awesome film. It made me cry. It actually made me cry, which is a thing I don't do when watching movies. From the first 15 minutes to the last, it was awesome. And like I said before, cinema. Godzilla -1 will forever be my favorite Godzilla film. Oh, and my favorite kaiju is Godzilla, which is basic, but he is absolutely badass.
Thank you, oh my god, Godzilla -1 is my favorite too. That and Shin. And yeah, I don't care if it's basic, my favorite kaiju is Godzilla, but other than that, I love Mothra! Now, it's been said that you've received some harassment since creating the man in the suit. Would you be comfortable explaining some of the things people would often get mad at you for and your experience during that time?
I am comfortable with it. I feel like people just don't like how the analog horror is set up, or the fact it's about the suit actors. When I was making the series, which I thought would never make it big, I used someone's real name because I thought realism equals scary, which now I deeply regret. However, for the way the analog horror is presented, I guess there is some criticism about it, but you gotta know, I was a kid who had no idea it would make it this big, and now I know what I am doing. I 100% tell you, we're making it better than before.
Ah, yes, I see. This does relate to my next question that I had prepared, actually. A common point of criticism for your series is that it's offensive due to the fact that it features real-life deceased people. Do you have anything to say in response to this? Never are these characters explicitly stated to be the same as their real-life actors, with the exception of King Kong's suit actor. Is there anything you can say regarding whether or not these characters are fictional?
In my response, it's an alternate universe about spooky Godzilla stuff. I guess that was in the past because, again, when I was making the series, I didn't know it would be a big deal. However, I learned from these mistakes.
It's good to know that you've learned from your previous mistakes. From what I've heard, you're still a teenager, making all of this on your phone. Have there been any challenges or restrictions with creating this series?
I had many challenges with editing images and restrictions like no computer apps like Blender.
Ah, I see. There are a lot of really impressive images later along the line. Have you received assistance with making these? And as for the artwork, are any of these drawn by yourself?
Some I had assistance, some I made, and some I got from the internet. Like I said, it was in the past, and now I'm making sure every image is now handcrafted by the team.
Oh, if you have them on you, which are some of the images that you've made yourself?
Yeah, let me get them. I made this infamous image, even this, so that's cool.
You're so silly, little guy. You use a lot of Japanese text in your videos. Do you know the language, or are you using a translator?
A translator.
I see. Is English your first language then?
Yes. English is my first language.
Ah, okay. Outside of Godzilla and analog horror, what do your interests consist of?
Horror movies, slashers, gaming, so on and so forth.
Oh, fun. Is it possible that Man in the Suit fans will be able to get physical merchandise in the future?
Maybe?
Do you have any plans to include other kaiju in the Man in the Suit in the future?
Yes.
Is there anything you can say as to what we can expect from the next installment? No spoilers, obviously.
It's gonna be big. And it's gonna be absolutely way better, and might be even better than the original Godzilla suit incident.
Happy to hear it! I, for one, am very excited. Tell us a little about this teaser. Can we expect to see a lot more animation and movement in this next installment? If you're allowed to answer, will the man in the suit have a 3D model?
More movement, a lot more animation, and yes, he will have a 3D model.
Yo, that's so exciting! Is there anything you can hint at regarding your upcoming collaboration with Vibing Leaf?
Vibing Leaf is gonna help me with the Ghidorah suit incident. Now let's just say that somewhere in the end of the video, he gets his stardom.
How do you feel about so many new Godzilla fans emerging from your work? I've seen a lot of people introduced to the series or have become interested in it again after watching your series.
It feels honoring to make something to invite people new and old back into the series.
Is there anything you'd like to say to those who have supported you in your work? What about to those who may have been critical or even just downright cruel?
Thank you to the people who supported, and also to the people who have been critical. Without you, the Man in Suit would just be another lonely one-man project. But now it's a team and a series. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to answer these questions. On behalf of everyone, I must say you've created something truly special, and that you should be very proud. Thank you so much, that's all I have for now. Once again, a huge thank you to Unknowingly for coming on, as well as providing me with a teaser to use. Please make sure to subscribe to their channel if you haven't already. Also, look at his cat. He sent me his cat, like, during the interview. Look at her. She's so cute. As far as things go for the Man in the Suit, it seems that this is all of the information we have readily available. The Man in the Suit is a series that is decently coherent, something that I enjoy greatly as I am known to be incredibly stupid when it comes to analog horror. It seems that the next installment will be the Ghidorah suit incident, and I'm more than excited to see it as soon as it releases. It seems that, from what Unknowingly has told me, this episode will feature the debut of a 3D model for the Man in the Suit, and will feature assistance from Vibing Leaf, someone who is also an incredibly talented creator in their own right. The Man in the Suit is one of the most interesting cases of popular analog horror to me. While stuff like the Mandela Catalog and the Vault and Files are very stylistically impressive, I feel like I enjoyed the overall story of the Man in the Suit a lot more than these series. Although that could just be because of my own obsession with Godzilla. Regardless, I think it's completely unfair to judge the series entirely based on appearances and stylistic substance, because the story being told here is beautiful, it's tragic, and it's absolutely haunting. Unknowingly, you are a very talented creator and storyteller, and the work that you've done is beyond phenomenal, especially considering your age and editing program. Never let anyone else get you down. This video was an absolute honor to work on, and I understand that my thoughts are likely very garbled as of now, but I hope it was an enjoyable watch regardless. Godzilla has been one of my biggest interests for a while now, and being able to talk about it through the series has made me so unbelievably happy. Hopefully, despite my blatant hyperfixation showing through while recording, this video was still enjoyable. As always, thank you so much for your time. I've been quinnamon, and don't forget to stay safe, stay smiling, and above all, stay spooky. Farewell!
LeBron James.
Scream if you love.
The Man in the Suit.